that after I called for increased vigilance protecting us, that Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio all attacked me. I wear that as a badge of pride. If you want to stop radical Islamic terrorism, the answer isn't to go hang out in random neighborhoods. It is instead to focus on communities where radicalization is a risk. And my point is very simple. America should not make the mistakes of Europe. We should not disengage. We should have law enforcement actively engaged to stop radicalization before it stops.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. That seems like common sense, but as Ted Cruz mentioned, the police commissioner of New York City, the mayor of New York City, where these kind of programs were in place until they stopped them, blasted him. I mean, really viciously blasted him, and so have many others on the left. So joining us now is Michael Cutler, former INS special agent with 30 years plus experience in immigration enforcement. He also has testified before Congress many times, including to the 9/11 Commission, and he writes all over the place. And Michael, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thanks for covering this.
No, it's so important, and I'm going to ask you a question that you know we need 3-4 days to talk about.
You bet.
But how do we fix this problem or stop this problem before it becomes like Europe? How do we not become what we see in video after video of what Europe has become?
Well, you mentioned the 9/11 Commission, to which I provided testimony. Let's look at what the 9/11 Commission talked about. Immigration law enforcement must be seen as a pivotal key issue to preventing terrorists from entering the United States and embedding themselves in the United States. We've naturalized terrorists. Faisal Shahzad, the Times Square bomber. But realize Ray Kelly, New York City Police Commissioner, described him as a classic example of a homegrown terrorist. He came here at the age of 20. When politicians and leaders refuse to recognize what the problem is, we have a problem. The first step in problem solving is to identify the problem.
And that Times Square bomber, by the way, that would have been a horrific disaster,
Absolutely.
Except that the guy didn't know how to light the fuse in the car, of the bomb in the car.
Yeah, but dumb luck is not a success.
Oh, right. I'm just saying.
Yes, no, but you're right.
Yeah.
But this is a guy that we naturalized.
Yeah.
And so when he was at sentencing, the judge said, well, you took an oath. He said, I lied. I hate America. I hate your freedom. Sharia gives me all the freedom I want. His only remorse was that the bomb did not go off.
Sure.
So now, how did we naturalize him without doing an investigation? We have people rightfully concerned about the Syrian refugees. We're not vetting them. What's the vetting process for millions of aliens who evade the inspections process altogether? They're uninspected. This undocumented nonsense is just that. They're unvetted. They're uninspected. And part of that process, and I spent the first 4 years of my career as an inspector with the INS, is to keep out terrorists, criminals, spies, and those people who would do harm to us.
Right.
So what I would suggest is this. You know, Donald Trump said, let's keep the Muslims out. That's not going to work, even if you wanted to do it. And it's a bad optic. America's First Amendment. I think a lot of people have problem with a religious test. People are going to lie about their religion. People are going to run the border and get here anyway. But what you should be doing is ramping up the interior enforcement of the immigration laws. Ted Cruz talked about law enforcement. No one talks about the interior enforcement of the immigration laws.
Which is why I explain what that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote an article for the front page. I called it Border Security and the Immigration Colander. We're being told if we secure the Mexican border, everything is great. We have 50 border states. Any state with an international airport, seaport, or lies along either the northern or southern borders are all border states. Enforce the law from within the interior. Look for the people who are violating immigration laws. People that lie on applications, get married for money. That's the way that the terrorists embed themselves. And if you focus on the aliens who come from countries that sponsor terrorism, you will do two things.
Yeah.
Either deport them or, under certain controlled circumstances, give them the opportunity to become informants. That's how you develop the intelligence, and they will help you identify the people who pose the threat.
Do we have the logistics to do that? Do we have the manpower to do this? Do we have the money devoted to this kind of a program?
No, we don't. And so we have over 20,000 Border Patrol agents.
Right.
We have almost 60,000 people working at CBP, Customs and Border Protection, 45,000 people at TSA. You've got fewer than 7,000 ICE agents, and more than half of them are doing customs work, which has nothing to do with immigration. None of the candidates really are talking about the interior enforcement mission. That is the most critical, and the 9/11 Commission findings bear that out.
So what if you were advising the next president, he sits down with you on day one, where do you start to put all this into place?
I was part of the drug task force for 15 of my 30 years. Take agents from the FBI, DEA, ATF, move them over to immigration enforcement activities and then start hiring, but be careful who you hire. We don't want massive hiring where we're not careful who we hire and how we train them.
Right.
But ultimately, I want anybody who's illegally present in the United States to not be able to go to sleep at night confident that they won't be arrested the next day. That's called deterrence. We can't deport 11 million. Well, there's probably 40 million. I just wrote an article for Cap's Web. I call it the immigration clown car.
Yeah, that number has remained too constant for too long, right?
Since the Bush administration. But let's enforce the law.
Right.
Let's create deterrence through enforcement.
All right, Michael Cutler, thank you very,
Thanks for
very
having
much.
me.
Always great to see you and
Good
hear
to see
you.
you.
All right, folks, up next, National Youth Director for Constituting America, Juliet Turner, will get a young person's perspective on the reality campaign we're seemingly in the middle of. Don't go away.